who actually, curious of your process, like who are you doing these inquiries with?
I mean, to be honest with you, man, what I'm kind of doing is I'm kind of going back to my childhood and interviewing people that I've known from like being very young into like, I mean, I just talked to Glenn today, so I'm kind of like hitting the CCC era of my life.
Okay.
I'm trying to
So
like, I'm kind of
you do
chronologically kind of reverse engineer some of my network and like just talk to people about where they're at
right.
studying. And so like it's been some folks in Malala, but I mean I've got like what the other thing that I'm trying to do is like I'm trying to ask people like who they would recommend me like go through this process with. So now you know
Right.
I've one of the guys that I grew up with in Malala. He's got connections in Muscle Shoals and Tennessee, you know, and like and so like I've got a couple of people that I'm talking to, and then you know probably early next year from Nashville, you know, and so
Right.
it's kind of like what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to like follow my own network, but allow it to branch out into places that I don't inherently know.
Right. But I like that you're starting kind of on the early part because, like, you know, I'll tell you like this. For me, you know, music was always a huge part of just what I liked about my immediate family. Um, my mother, like, you know, I started going to concerts at 8 years old.
Mm.
You know, you had, I know you had a different beginning. Like you kind of you got slapped in the face with a bunch of shit in your like teenage years, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
in early 20s. And I, you know, and but you know, I'll have to say me and you were a moment, dude, moment of my musical journey.
Likewise.
It's ironic that we're talking because um uh I always remember you walking with the wraparound headphones, uh, just bobbing your head in your leather jacket all day, fucking smoking the American spirits. And you had because you taught me about the library. I had no knowledge of the library in that concept, you know, in that way. And because I remember, because we were at that time, it was like right around where you could get away with downloading a song
Mm.
off the internet, but we hadn't quite crossed that line where you could get a whole album off the internet.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like illegally.
Yeah.
And so, and you had whole albums. Like, dude, your library on your iPod was just like fucking ridiculous. And I was like, how the fuck? Like, I know you ain't paying for all this shit. I know you know. Like, how do you have all that? You know what I mean? And then you were like, the library. And I was like, what? And it reminded me of these dudes that it reminded me of these two busboys at the restaurant I worked at before I moved up here. I used to get these clean fades, and they acted like it was a secret. And like, I was like, "Where do you get your haircut?" And they're like, no, bro, we can't tell you that." Like, and it was like the library, and then you taught me about it, and I remember I have like 70 gigs still on an old hard drive that if I got a casing for it, 70 gigs that I got from the library, and it was like. And because yeah, your library was so eclectic, you know, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, how do you have all this shit? And so just yesterday, my uncle Dennis, the patriarch now, after my grandpa, you know, he sent me his whole CD collection.
Wow.
I'm literally going through.
Yeah.
I have four boxes, Doug, 4 boxes like that, and I'm just loading them onto a hard drive right now.
Yeah.
And it's taken me back to being up here and ordering 20 CDs at a time from the library and just loading them on my computer and fucking taking them back. You know what I mean? But it was like, you know, I was in jazz band for fucking, you know, all of middle school and high school, but I didn't listen to it all. You know, you didn't have that. You know, we're of a cool generation of coming from, like, for me as a kid, coming from a not so conservative, background, it's like, I remember recording songs off the radio onto a tape. We're a cool generation where we have the best of both.
Yeah.
Of technology and before.
Right.
We know what it's like before, and now we get to enjoy the now.
Yeah.
Like, I love my Spotify. It's one of the most beautiful things in the world. The playlist I have built, my weekly fucking Discover Weekly. That's the shit, bro. Like, oh, you're gonna make a playlist for me? Aw. That's so nice. Like, thank you. I never heard that before. We'll put that on this list,
Right.
And it's so it's like, but the kids today, they don't know. They don't know what it was like to you had to go to even CDs. You had to go to the store. You had to buy the album, and you went home and you listened to that whole album.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't get like tired of a song and then search for something else. It was like you listened to that album, and then you had the lyrics in the album fold, and you sat there and you learned every word. And so that's kind of a funny journey. But you were a big part of Aaron, and Glenn. But you and Aaron were very particular to me because you guys showed me a lot of artists that I never heard of, and you showed me artists that I knew of, but never really dived in deep. Like I remember you were much. Two main ones I can think of was Beck.
Yeah.
Really diving deep into Beck.
Yeah.
And being like, and just knowing that he makes everything, and I was just like, just like, this dude's a genius right here. And then like with Aaron, well, you and Beck, and then Massive Attack.
Yeah.
And Massive Attack was funny because I had a bunch of their stuff like in my library, but I didn't like sit there and listen to them. I think Angel's one of my favorite. That's the right title. That's one of my favorite songs. And then Aaron, like Andy DeFranco, showed me Andy DeFranco. I was just like, that's just genius right there. But yeah, it's kind of cool. It's I think for really big music heads like us, it's meeting another music head.
Yeah.
When I could probably count like my real music head homies. It's gonna probably overlap to two hands. But my true music head homies, that's like we could just sit there and send each other shit all the time. It's like there's like about 5 or 6, and those are those true heads that just love anything and everything for different reasons. And it's like, and one of my favorite music heads is my boy Oli, who's not even a musician himself. And sometimes those are my favorite, because it reminds me to just listen and not necessarily critique.
Yeah.
Or judge, which you try and say you don't, but you do. And it's always nice to just be like, just do you enjoy it? Don't care about what the process was, what the people start thinking about mainstream, underground, all these different details of how this music came to be, and it's just about, do I like it or not? Does it move me? Does it put a smile on my face? Does it crawl up my spine and make me go, like that's what matters.
Right.
And I'm like, who gives a shit if it's on the top 40? It's like, because there was a time, and it was right around the time when I moved up here the first time, I was a fucking snob, like it was like, if it was mainstream, I don't want nothing to do with it.
Right.
Yep. Sorry, underground or die, like, sorry. And so, but then it was like I had to kind of, because I came from the 90s, and the 90s was, everything was good, in my opinion. Whether it was mainstream or underground, it was like, you had the late 70s to the 80s where it was, punk, hip hop, and disco, and then that birthed the whole '80s, which was just amazing. And I get mad at anybody that says the '80s suck, but but then it was like everything was good, and then around the 2000s, that's where some things took a turn, and like true pop, the kind of negative nomenclature of pop kind of came around, in my opinion.
Yeah, what happened there? What was the pivot? What, if you were to like try, like what caused music to spiral out?
I think it was like, I think the music business was always there, but I think even from the I don't know, I mean, you can't like say why or how, but from an outside perspective, from someone that wasn't, involved, it seemed like it turned into a full-on business. And I'll admit that I'm somewhat of a conspiracy theorist, and I think that it's like, I think there was a little bit of brainwash there of just this cheesy fucking crap. And hip hop went to nothing but like party and bitches and gangster, and there was no conscious, rhymes and true MCs in the mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, because at that time, so like my senior year of high school was Daft Punk Discovery,
Yeah.
Sublime,
Right.
and Chronic 2001.
Right.
Like the shit. And then the very next summer after I graduated high school was Eminem's debut. And like, dude, every boat on the Delta was bumping that shit, and I heard it 1,000 times, and it never got old. You know what I mean? But right after that, it went, and hip hop was just it was all flash. It really kind of painted a bad picture. And then I started meeting all my homies that I still have today, my Delta Funk, my boy Oli. My boy Oli said something to me when we started really hanging out, and he came up to me and he was like, "You're not where you're supposed to be." And I remember thinking, like, that's some shit to say to somebody. Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And he was like, "You're not where you're supposed to be." And when he took me to some hip hop shows and some really deep house, and like I was even a rave kid before that, before we were homies, and before I was friends with all the homies I've had to this day, that I wasn't where I was supposed to be. There was two major cultures that I was not a part of. I was on the mainstream side of house, the really fucking fist pumping hard house that really, the musicality level, in my opinion, is pretty low. And on the hip hop side, it was, I wasn't in a bad place in hip hop, but I didn't know about the existing good hip hop.
Mm.
KRS-One, the Ugly Ducklings, the Far Side and Souls of Mischief, the jazzy, soulful, really conscious hip hop. I didn't know about that. And the things that bothered me when when that transition happened was the culture that I would see around the two different ones. Like, say, on the dance music side, you go to a rave and you look into the house room, the deep house, that's a funky, cool people. Those are people you're going to have a cool conversation with. You're going to dance, you're going to battle, there's a true community and enjoyment of the music. Then you look at the trance room, those are just some high son of a bitches that are just there to party and be fucked up. And it's, the culture is not there. The purpose is not there, in my opinion. And And then in the hip hop scene, you know, especially with in regards to, you know, especially current climates of, on a racial kind of spectrum, you know, you go to the mainstream hip hop of the early 2000s, you know, some Yin Yang Twins or whatever, it's predominantly black, and they're in there just hooding it up and painting the bad stereotype, the kind of, you know, that everybody wants to focus on, you know, from the outside perspective. And you go to a good quality hip hop show and it was super diverse, and, you know, even the fashion was, there was a more level, in my opinion, a level of, you know, consciousness and education, and, you know, on a lyrical point, like very metaphorical, and what's the word, the word, they were wordsmiths,
Yeah.
in comparison. It wasn't just bitches and partying and drugs, you know. There's two different worlds that I saw. I saw the musical world in two different worlds, and I was so happy to find the one that I did.
Did you crossover between the two? Like, were the community?
Yeah, for sure. There was diamonds in the rough, and it's like, and even, you know, I would catch myself being part of it. You know, sometimes it's
like the hip hop and the house scene. Like at that point, like how much did those two kind of subcultures like cross pollinate?
Well, I have to say that house music, like true house, the house scene brings everybody together. That to me is the beauty of the house scene. Is, you know, you could be a punk rocker, you could be hip hop head, you could, you know, it brings everybody together, because house, that's kind of what house is about. But underground hip hop and deep house are very coinciding. I have found, especially for one thing. But it's a cult, you know, there's a, you know, outside of music, the cultures kind of coincide. You know, you find, it's weird because it's hard to, you know, with art, you can't really put fact on anything. But opinions are very strong. And so it's like musical theory is a foundation, is a language to where other people can communicate with each other. But then it's a interpretation of that language. And at the end of the day, it's opinion. And so what's kind of funny is, you know, music has been great, in my opinion. Like, all music was good, no matter what genre it was, because it was, I think there is a part of it that it was harder. I think maybe in theory there was a part of it that it took more effort to make it, to create it for so long, and now it's getting, you know, there's an more easier that I don't discount people. I don't discount the, you know, that it is easier to make. I think that there's a level of passion and or respect that is lost in the masses because of that. And so, and I think one of the things that is lost is the respect for where it came from, and what it's gone through to get to where it is. And I think that's something that's kind of happening in generations, to where it's like, you know, like, to be honest, I can't stand what mainstream hip hop is today. You know, the mumble rap, the, you know, the triplet feel beats, like even the instrumentals I don't like. Like back in the early 2000s, when I was in my like early 20s, the beat was dope, but I hated, you know, the lyrics were fucking shit to me.
Right.
Now I can't stand either.
Right.
You know, that tick 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 tick. I'm like, I can't do it. I and like even their personas, it's, you know, that's the thing too. It's like it upsets me of the quality musicians that are out there. And it's not even about economics. It's not about the ones that are successful making money, but it's about influence. It's about, these are the ones that are being put out there. And, you know, a young person, depending on where they are and who their parents are they're they're only exposed to what they see, what's put in their face, not what they are able to explore.
I mean, which is just fascinating because it's like easier now than ever to explore music.
Right.
You can just
Let's see. Go ahead.
It's just like it's free. You can listen to it in like plenty of like all it is you investing time to go look for it.
Right.
But
you need someone to navigate you as well.
Yeah, totally.
From a young age.
Yeah, mentors are.
And at the end of the day, it's an opinion.
Right.
So that's the hard, you know, that's the hard point. Like, what's his name? Have you ever seen that dude Tekashi 6ix9ine?
No, I don't know if I have.
With the rainbow hair and fucking tattoos all over his face.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about now, yeah.
Someone made a video, and it's like, it proves my fucking point. Someone made a video, it's him and not Cardi B, but the other hood female rapper. Anyways, they took a video that they made and dubbed in just dumb voices, and he's like, he's sitting there going, but here's the thing, you look up the original video, the real video, and it ain't far off by much. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's what I hate, because, you know, when we were kids, the majority of artists we watched were poets, and fucking even on the radio, even on MTV, they were fucking pioneers and poets and people that were really creating great stuff from scratch.
Yep.
And now you just have people just sampling and buying all these packs of sounds and stuff. Like, nobody wants to create from scratch.
Right.
You know, like even on the and now it's kind of funny because it's touching home a little bit more, because I'm a little bit more motivated on the music scene than I am on the film scene, to be honest. Even though I just got a film degree, but it's like we watched this documentary that Keanu Reeves made called Side by Side. And it's a documentary about the history of film when it comes to digital and analog.
Okay.
And majority of films today are shot digitally. But what's ironic is they back them up on analog. They archive films on film, because I guess they keep better, whatnot. And they're throughout the documentary, they're interviewing directors and cinematographers, and they're asking them, like, do you think it's cool that anybody can make a movie now? And they're like, no. Like, majority of them are like, no. And because I'd be on the fence, and I think that's because of the generation I'm from, is that it's cool that, you know, the creative freedom that people have with, you know, how not costly equipment is, and, you know, how they can easily make stuff, you know, and some people are real pioneers with technology today, but there is kind of like I think there's a I think we're losing a huge level of compassion, a huge level of emotion. I think, you know, it's so quick to express kind of a certain type of thought or an idea that it's, you know, that the thought process isn't long enough, you know, and then that's where the cool factor gets a little construed, you know. I don't know. It's hard to kind of put that my thought of that into words, where it's like I think how fast things can go are affecting the care that goes into it. People aren't taking their time, and I think what would be cooler is that we do have this mass amount of tools at our fingertips, but still don't be in a rush.
Right.
You know, it's like, yeah, your ability to, you know, fucking record a song and master it and put it out is there. Like, that's cool. You can do that in a week, which usually would take fucking weeks or months, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like, but we should still, you know, yeah, we got all this technological advances that allow us to do that, but still take our time and make it that much better.
Right.
It's like, why is there a rush? Because there's so much content. It's like we don't even have the time to enjoy it. It's like, let's slow down and make it that much more quality rather than pump it out. That's kind of a thought I've had a lot lately, is like, let's not just get it out there. Let's think about it. You know, let's let the creative objective be the most important still, and not the mass production.
Right.
That's kind of.
No, I mean it's its own epidemic in the music industry right now. I feel like it's a common theme for people to just like be putting out, like there's like a glorification of constant content, like quantity versus quality. Like,
Yeah.
Because people like it, I don't know if it's like people getting trained by their phones to like react to notifications, and so it's like hit the subscribe button and then you're gonna get notified next week when I have this up and you're gonna like it, like, and it's just like that whole mentality of like constantly keeping people's attention redirected towards you by putting something out every single week has encouraged our artists to prioritize quantity.
Yeah. And it's like that, you know, it's more, that's what makes you a dope artist.
Yeah.
You know, in today's day and age, is how much you put out, how often you put out. It's like, oh, dude, that dude does shit fucking every 2 days.
Right.
No. Like, no, I want to fucking blow your mind a couple times a year. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what it should be. You know, like, to be honest, like, you know, when I put out that Oreo rhyme, that was a huge like step for me, you know, and it was cool because I got motivated by an outside source telling me to do something. And he didn't even tell me to do that specifically. He just said, he sent me a video and he's like, you should do something like this. And I wrote, you know, I had started so many rhymes. Like, I probably wrote like 2 verses every time. But and it was an eye-opening thing about just me as an artist. Like, I've spent the last couple of years on the film side doing all this training because I'm worried about the technical aspects of what I can do, like graphic arts wise, how I can make, you know, my color correction, you know, the technical aspects of making a good film. And it's, you know, and I'm like, you know what? I'm getting so frustrated that I'm not meeting the mark of what other people do. And especially, and then like musically as well, but especially film. But it's like I'm sitting here trying to do what the industry is telling me to do, what the industry is, the standard is, and I'm like, it's not fun. But it's also like I have more than one experience in my life that tells me that I I'm talented, and I like, I love being an artist, and it's something that brings me a lot of joy. But like when I wrote that rhyme and I sat there and like, when you're writing a rhyme and then it's like, I've never been a lyricist, whether it's been writing a song or a rhyme, and it was like writing it out, and then you got to change words so it meets up rhythmically, and so you're really kind of working with words and phrases, and then it was thinking about something personal, and going through that experience was really cool. And then having to perform it,
Yeah.
and being a hip hop head ever since I was a little kid, you don't get it until you try and do it, of how hard that is. And it was like, it was so cool to be like, I got a whole bigger respect for every hip hop artist I've ever listened to.
Yeah.
Because it was like that video, I had to it was all from start to finish. It was one take. And so like the one I finally did was probably like the 50th or some odd, take. Because it was like, I might mess up on just making the beat. I gotta start over. I might get all the way to the last verse and fuck up.
Yep.
Start over. And it was just like, like,
Yep.
and just realizing what it is to enunciate and get it out. And also not enunciate, but then perform it, like give it a good delivery.
Right.
That's it doesn't matter if you just go, it's like you gotta really, it's gotta look good. You gotta get everybody emotionally involved and be with you in that story that you're telling.
Right.
And that was something I never did. Like musically, I can definitely get people involved. I can hype it up. I can, I'm a, instrument, sound musical performer all day, but it was to lyrically be a performer and, have facial, gestures and, that go along with what I'm saying. And that was a cool experience, to go through that. And it was super motivating to be like, this might be a new shit I want to do,
Yeah.
So,
good on you for doing it, man. I mean, it's like one of those,
yeah.
watching it was a lot of joy in a lot of different ways for me, just because like I know you as my brother, it's like we go back. And so, and we've made a lot of music together. We've witnessed a lot of music together, and like to see you like do something that is like purely you, like authentically, purely like 100% you, was just, that's my boy. I love my
boy. Yeah, it was cool. And it was like all my homies that I'm close with, like you in that regard, that some of the reactions I got, were just like, what?
Yeah.
It was cool. It was fun, and that's the thing. It's like, and I can go months without doing that again. I'm like, okay, cool. Because I am all about doing it well.
Yeah.
Something, that triggers a memory. And it's funny because it's, it's from film school, but it all goes together. At the end of film school, I had a class called Final Project. In that class, there was 4 students. 2 of us were digital film students. The other 2 were graphic arts. And the graphic arts students, they're plugged. They're going to go work for Sportsnet. They're going to do whatever. They're graphic arts students. They're plugged. They got jobs. They're set. And my teacher, his background was motion graphics, but he had, he did have a lot of film under his belt. And this class, we're making our reel. So we're working on like putting together our little captional work. We're, looking at, presenting ourselves, selling ourselves, our website, our reel, making ourselves a product essentially. And in the very beginning of the class, we had to write an essay of what is our goal? Like, what's our goal with, you know, getting this degree, getting this education? What's our goal? And in my essay, one of the main messages I was making was, I want to be respected in this community, in this artistic, you know, field, in this area of art. And both my graphic arts classmates and my teacher both disagreed with that statement and wanted more of a number statement of what my goal was. You know, I want to be making this much at this time and have a house and this and that and then da, 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 da. It was a lot of numbers that they wanted, and it just like we got in this kind of back and forth, and it pissed me off like to a high level, to where I was like, really, like, as an artist, you don't want to be respected by your peers? I'm like, that should be the ultimate goal. And I'm like, because trust and believe, if I'm respected by my fucking artistic fucking peers, the money's gonna be coming. I don't want to be qualified to work with people. I want to be desired to be worked with. That is my goal. I want to be a badass that people are trying to fucking work with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
And it's like, and that comes without details, because it's the how at that point doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how you did it. Doesn't matter if you went to school. Doesn't matter if you can read everything on a page. Doesn't matter. It's like, but if you can show up and fucking be a badass and play with anybody and do whatever, and you are respected, then it's gonna, everything's gonna happen. And like, that should be your goal.
That it's like I think that what's challenging about that is, like, at that point you're talking about like a leap of faith, because there is no like what it's going to look like, what your daily, like what your job security looks like, because
Right.
be you, you know, and like, and you being authentically you and the badass you that you are is going to be a unique story to you alone, you know. So
Right.
even if you are respected, like, and you go into like into the world of producing art, like, you don't know who you're going to be working with. You don't have the objective of like trying to make a paycheck, you know. And so like at that point it's just, I think it's an intimidating path, because it's like you have to write it as you go along, right?
Right.
It's like we're here now writing our book on how to live our life as we're going through it, you know.
Right.
Get to the end of this stone and I put another stone down and I step onto that one, and like,
Yep.
it's a different thing. And so like, I don't know, I think that it's kind of interesting, like when you try, I'd be really curious to see like your professor talk about like how much of like he's training you to be a part of the industry versus how much he's
Right.
an artist, because those
Yeah.
things, right? I mean,
it really wasn't about like my, you know, I learned a lot at my school, but I kind of, I regret, there's a part of me that regrets going there. I think it happened the way it happened.
right.
It's, you know, because I didn't even start there as a film major. I had a couple homies that had went there over the years. Like, it didn't even have a bachelor's program when it first opened. Like, there was like just certifications, and then it, you know, there was an associate's, like, and then it turned into whatever. And I went. My whole goal was, I was kind of getting stir crazy, and I was like, okay. My two objectives was, all right, I want to work, even though I may not be the biggest, you know, solid creator. I was like, I want to be in this industry. And then when it came to sound, I was like, okay, I want to go learn how to engineer or master. And so, but then I also wanted to educate down the road. So that was my big thing about getting the degree. And so I started school, and when I got there, there was sound arts, there was another type of sound arts, and then there was film, graphic arts, game arts design, something else. But when you were there in the first couple semesters, the first like 4 semesters, you did these huge group projects where everybody, no matter what department you were in, did these projects together where you made a short narrative film and you made a short documentary. And so it was supposed to give you a taste of everything. And the short narrative was first. And that journey was like writing a script and blocking the shots, doing storyboarding and filming it and acting and all that stuff. And just being the huge movie buff I was and being just a natural storyteller, I was like, oh, I love this. And then the documentary one came up, and I ended up editing the final version like the night before it was due, like 10 hours in the editing studio. And man, when I had a taste of that, I was like, ooh, this is it for sure. Like, I'll be a musician over here. I'm like, because I started thinking about it, I'm like, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a master. I'm a producer. I'm going to make it. Somebody else will make it perfect. Like, I was like, but telling a story, ooh, I'm all about it. You know, like that was huge for me. And so, and I think in the long run, like documentary work is probably what my real on the film side would be. And I want to write scripts. You know, it's about storytelling, and that's something that coincides with being a musical creator. Is it's expressing an emotion. It's a story always, you know. And even if it's jamming, it's you're exuberating emotions in the moment, you know. And that it's kind of funny where I'm at right now of like what I want to do with both things. But music is definitely the bigger part of my life for sure.
Why is it important to you? Like why is the creative outlet of music feeling compelling right now?
Number one, I think it's the thing that feels most natural to me. It's the first thing I want to do. I think also like my roots being, you know, on the rhythmic side. That's like the number one release. And it's also, you know, dancing being one of my number one things. That's why if I had to pick, you know, house would be my number one. And and that's the funny thing, you know, depending on what kind of musician or music lover you are, house music is a funny thing. It's like when you're a house head, you're a house head. Like that's die hard. Or and then there's people that enjoy it, and then there's people that don't get it, you know. And to me, house, it's like I'm a dancer, so I think that's number one that I can never get. And then for a lot of other people, like people that are not dancers in house, it is the culture, it's the community of it. And you know, I remember when I first moved up here and with Glenn, and I would be bumping house in the car, and he would be like, he's like, why do you just listen to house in the car? You know, he didn't get why I listened to it, and I never thought about it. And then, I put it together. I go because I've been there. Because house is about the scenario. That's actually at the end of the day what house is about, and I think that's what a lot of music is about. You could probably you could listen to a band, you know, someone could play you a band over and over and over again at their house, but then you go see them, you could hate them every time they play them at the house, and then you finally go see them and you feel it and you see it, and you have the energy of the crowd, and then you're in love. Like say, like on a different genre of music, like say Tool. Like I didn't even like, or not, I'm not gonna say I didn't listen to a lot of alternative in high school, but Tool was huge when I was in high school, you know. And then I didn't go to my first Tool concert until my mid-20s. And man, that was just jaw dropping and like one of the greatest shows I ever saw in my life. And I used to say that, and it hit me with Glenn when I was like, because I've been in a situation, I've been at a fat party where everybody's moving to the same beat. There's a big dance circle and fools are battling, and so I've been there. I've had the experience. So then I listen to it when I'm in my car because it puts me right back there.
Right.
And then when I took him to see Doc Martin, for the first time, and I remember he looked at me and he went, I get it. And so I think that's one of the coolest things about music, is when you can show somebody else that has no understanding and no love for what you love, and then you hit them at that right moment in that right experience, and they go, oh, hella dope, that's probably my favorite thing about music, that, and it's been a part of me since day one. Like I've always, I think, just rhythm, and when you can't help, when you don't even have a choice but move, like that's a beautiful thing to me, when I can't even stop. My buddy Max, he just made a recent mix called Pump the Jams, and it's a house mix, but he's remixing all these old like hip hop jams. And I was listening to it while I was working out, and I had to like stop my workout to dance because he did a remix of Jump Up by House of Pain.
Okay.
Jump up and get down, but a house mix, and I was just like, like I let like that's my favorite. Those are my favorite moments of music, of when you are not in control.
Right.
That to me explains my love of music, is when you have no control of yourself.
It does. It hijacks your brain.
Yeah, like I'm not in charge anymore. Like that shit took me over. Like, what is that? There's nothing better than that, because it's like you can be a sober person all your life and have music do that to you, and that's like having a mushroom high for fucking 3 minutes, and then coming out of it and being like, what just happened? What? Wait, what?
Totally.
And that's the beauty. And then if you put mushrooms on top of it, I mean, hey, there you go. I hope I'm not messing up the study here.
Good. Right. Goodness.
Yeah, and I mean, and I had my amazing mother that introduced me at a young age. My first concert when I was 8 years old, she took me to see Al Jarreau.
Wow.
Do you know who Al Jarreau is?
I've heard the name. Yeah, it's massive.
He was a big R&B. He was a big scat singer.
Okay.
That was like he oh man, there's the one song. I want to actually, let's fucking, really cool song of his. And it's like that 80s jazz, which was, it was pop, but it was like fucking funky. Let's see here. Get some Al Jarreau going on. Come on, Al Jarreau. No, don't just play. I want to see it. What's his most popular? Boogie Down. That's the one. Yeah, play it. Can you hear it? Super cheesy 80s, but it's super good. right, you gotta let the vocals. All I need is to get my boogie down. Like super staccato. Oh, dude. Actually, that reminds me of in mainstream when we did that semester of like all jazz tunes. And that was a big, like that was a down pinnacle for me when it came to studying music, was when fucking Lonnie tried to tell us how to scat. That really, and I, you know, and it was weird because I wasn't necessarily, you know, researched in my opinion. I was afterwards and confirmed my natural opinion. But my natural, he was like, boot up, baba dabba weed up. And like, he tried to put like this whole form on it. And I'm like, that's not what scatting's about, bro. That is the most free form, fucking no holds bar art. And he was like trying to put fucking syllables on it and whatnot. And I was like, ugh, no. It's not how it works, bro. Not how it goes. Like and like on a dancing note, like tap dancing. You ever seen the movie Tap?
Oh no.
Oh, please look up. If you have to buy it, fucking buy it.
Okay.
It'll cost you like $10. Tap, Gregory Hines, and it's about hoofing, which is in comparison to say like the Broadway 1930s, you know, Gene Kelly tap dancing, and hoofing, which is like Harlem back in the day. True tap dancing, because those were like the jazz musicians compared to the pop musicians.
Okay.
And hoofing was just about, you know, stealing steps and just coming up with it on your own. And it was just a real natural thing. And it, oh man, that movie, I watched that movie and I was 5 years old. And I remember we were living in Virginia. We were living in DC, and we were visiting at my grandma's house in Southern California. And I was like, Mom, when we get home, I'm taking tap lessons. And when we got home, she signed me up for jazz and tap lessons. And I went in my first couple lessons, and they're all, and I was like, that is not what I saw in the movie. Out, like, but you know what? It's like there's that, like, no, it takes some time and discipline. But I'm like, you know what? If I stuck into that shit, I would have been like the whole mainstream side of tap dancing. I wouldn't have learned how to hoof, you know. And it's like, it makes me want to get a pair of tap shoes.
Yeah, I bet you'd slay it.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm a dancer, I'm a drummer. Who knows? I mean, it's gonna be a fucking workout. It's gonna take some time, but I think I can do it.
Oh man,
it's kind of crazy. Like, you know, a lot of what we talk about is, you know, that's it's there's a lot of, it's the difference between like opinion and, you know, how it's but it seems to me that there's so many people on one page that are on the same page and so many people that are not. You know, you know, you don't want to stereotype and you don't want to do that, but it's just kind of, it's two worlds. Because you think like our worlds, everybody's on the same page. You know, I could play any, it's like, it's either, because if someone in my world doesn't like something that I play for them, that means they just don't like that thing, or they don't, or maybe for some reason they don't like that artist.
right?
You know, but 9 times out of 10 they're like, ooh, what's that? You know, it's there's a weird kind of common understanding, and the people that are on the mainstream are the kind of, really, that's what you listen to? All right.
There's like an openness. I feel like that one of the things you like talk about music heads and whatnot, like people that listen to music, like their taste, like they just get acclimated to a broader palette of things, and then you can start to appreciate like the combinations of elements and like new vocabulary because it's like surprising to you, you know.
Right.
I think that it's like that is something that I really hope to like encourage, like either in my students or in my community in general, is like I try to like listen to this, like, and like even if you don't like it, come up with like 5 things that you do like about it and the 5 things that you don't like about it. Like don't just say you don't like it, but like come to terms with what it is that's challenging and what it is that is good about it. Because like if
Right.
you get into the habit of that, then eventually you start to appreciate more and more of it. And
Right.
it's just like you can start to tolerate things that are unique to your experience, you know. I don't know, it's an important thing. I think it's really important to just like being comfortable in situations with things that you're not familiar with.
I think, I think a big difference between people is like when you're around it and you're already emotionally involved in the world, you do that quickly.
Mm.
It's like you do that, like we're analyzing quickly. Like we do that without having to think about doing it.
Right.
So it's like I'm already going, I'm already finding out what I think is neat, what I think is simple, I'm like, oh, all right, whatever, that's cool. We're just doing the same thing that everybody's doing. Then I'm going, oh, I never thought about that. That's dope. Like, look at that,
Yeah.
It's some people, it's kind of funny to where when you've done that just naturally for so many years,
Yeah.
but then it's super healthy to push that. It's push somebody else to do that, to break it down rather than make it a black and white situation.
Right.
Don't just dislike it. Just be like, what, is there anything you do like about it?
Right.
And what is about that? And then kind of, compare that to other shit. What, is there a common thread there that you like about all these things, but you don't like about it, and be like, oh, I wish they would do it like this. Because like, that's always something I do. I'm like, that would have been cool if they didn't do that. That it's like, it was awesome, and then they ruined it for me. And that's the thing is putting that for me. Like, it was awesome, except that. Yeah, but that's just me.
Right. Well, I think it's interesting because there again, like our minds are the ones that are receiving it. Like we're the ones interpreting the art. And like they talk about like how music is basically like a relationship of our minds starting to predict what we think is going to happen once we hear the song start. And it starts going and we start predicting what it's going to do, and it keeps going. And like as soon as like we think we're on the right track, and it keeps kind of giving us what we want, and then like we like without even thinking about it, we have an expectation on what the song is going to do, like in the apex of it. And so like
Right.
if the song doesn't meet our imagination's like conception of what the apex of the song is, like we don't get the dopamine, like our brain
Right.
doesn't get released. And so at that point,
Right.
it's just kind of like a missed opportunity. Like our brain doesn't like we anatomically don't get off on it.
Yeah. We're all, fuck that.
Right.
Did you hear that?
Sometimes it is kind of like that.
I'm out of here, bro. I'm out of here. This is fucking horrible. Like, yeah, because like, especially when they're like, and then blah. I paid for this. I paid for this.
Right.
I wasn't on the list. Was I?
No.
I'm out. I'm out of here.
What are you listening to these days? Like, I want to know what your ear.
Fucking everything. Let me think about it for a second. I'm not listening to too much hip hop or anything. I'm kind of like, I'm not listening to too much new.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm like, I'm letting my Spotify kind of lead the way for me right now because I've had a lot of focus on other parts of my life.
Right.
At the moment, and so I listened to a lot of my this was all year 2019, you know. So I'm just, you know, I'm being really nostalgic lately. So yeah, a lot of good house. It's always good hip hop. There's a playlist that I started that is always evolving, and it's called my After Hours playlist.
Mm-hmm.
And it started with a song called After Hours, and it's by Living Legends.
Okay, yeah.
Let's see, After Hours. Why is it not? See, and what I don't like sometimes is where you're not organized. And this one, and it's so funny. Oh, man. Light as fuck. The sun is coming out. And one thing that is something big about me is that I'm definitely a producer's mind. So it's always about the track, not the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
First thing is track. Like and I like that I have buddies of mine, like two of my best friends from back in California, my boy Jared, my boy Marcus. So they were high school friends, and then I came in my early 20s, and they're both alternative heads, you know, and you know they're both, well, Marcus especially is very lyrical, and so like it's always the lyrics that draws him to a song first, whether it be hip hop or anything. And it's like it takes the instrumental needs to move me first, and then it makes me listen to it over and over again, and then I learn the lyrics.
Right. Yep. I'm right with you. Yeah.
And what's funny is my instincts are always right, you know, to where it's you know that's always that's a compelling intrigue, is that good instrumentals always go along with good lyrics. To me, you know, the instrumentals that I love are always followed by lyrics that I'm impressed by. You know, I find that super fucking crazy. You know, it's like that. So it's like, and I know that all these artists have different processes, you know, especially hip hop. I know for probably 90% of them, the lyrics come first, you know, or you know, depending on the groups, you know, or you know the combinations, you know, sometimes they're just, you know, the producer's sitting there working on a beat and they drop the beat and then it spawns the fucking rap.
Right.
You know, but I think a lot of, you know, true lyricists, I think the rhyme comes first, and then they figure out the right beat to go to it.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I haven't been listening to too much new right now. Honestly, it's just been kind of, I have a playlist called Singers, and it's all stuff I like to sing to. And like there's like Michael Bublé and fucking John Legend and all types of stuff on there. And that's like singing in the shower kind of stuff.
Right on.
Ooh, this is a song that I always hate, is never on a jukebox. Some Prince. Tell me if you've heard this one.
Oh. Some proto house.
Say again?
It's like some proto house, like that intro,
Yeah,
like the drum fill and just like the whole
yeah.
kind of like drive of it is, yeah.
It's called Irresistible Bitch.
Okay.
Oh man, and you can never like. I think just because it's Irresistible Bitch, they don't put it on fucking. You know, here's another thing too. It's like, I'll tell you what, when you work in bars and stuff, and like the jukebox drives the situation, it always cracks me up that what songs are put on to the jukebox or not. And I sit there and I wonder all the details about that, because I'm like, is it the profanity? Is it the message? Like, what's the reason behind that? Is it the artist's choice?
Right.
Like, why wouldn't you put just every song that, it's not like, I don't know. It's weird. And I never find that song on, because it's such a dope song to have in a bar,
Yeah.
But I yeah, I'm really sad with hip hop right now.
Mm.
It pisses me off, honestly. It's I remember the fun. It was fun. Hip hop was fun. It was all about a good time. It was all about talking shit. That was it. I'm too much of a gentleman, gentleman in a dog world.
Yeah. The thing.
Both of us.
Thing.
And you're just like, this is shit you witness around you. You're like, oh my God, okay. That's sad.
Yeah.
What are you listening to? That's what I want to know.
Oh, what have you been listening to recently? I've been getting in on let's see here. I've had somebody turn me on to this guy, Jason Isbell. He's a guitar player and singer, relatively young cat, but it's kind of like I don't know. It's like if Tom Petty and Audio Slave kind of had a thing. Like I don't know. It's like alternative country, but like it's fairly like what's really kind of interesting about this band. Like the person that recommended him to me was a guitar player and was just like, oh, his guitar playing, his songwriting, rah rah rah. But like the drummer of this band, like his touch, like he was playing with brushes, like on tunes that could have had sticks, like repeat,
Right.
just like his taste for like his relationship with the snare drum, and it was just like the musicianship was really nice. I was really enjoying that a lot. So that's a record I've been listening to. I've been getting down on Morphine recently.
Okay.
Like I've been getting back into them a bit and kind of getting down there. That's been good. Let's see here. Tame Impala's new album is really good. I've really been getting down on that. There's a track. What would I rec? Lost in Yesterday is a fantastic record that came out like I think 4 months ago, relatively new. Jazzonova's remixes 2006 to 2016. You can find that on Bandcamp and stream that for nothing. That's really good. Yeah, there's a bunch of great stuff in there.
Well, it's funny when you said Jason Isbell. I was like, wait, what? My boy, I know I gave you the mix one time, the Pangea mix. Justin Isbell, my boy Izzy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, you said Jason Isbell. I was like, oh no, Justin, my boy Justin Isbell, Izzy. I want to send you a couple of these mixes that my boy Max did. The Pump It Up, the old school hip hop house mix.
I would love some new house music, man. I've been thinking Wyatt record. I've been
yeah,
placed that. I got to go hunt that down and listen to that. That's a fantastic record.
Fucking it was cool. You know what I love, to be honest, and that's like I said earlier about the whole kind of desire and goal to be respected. Was what I love when I put that little Oreo video out was the amount of contacts that I got with other artists that I respect, and them being like, dude, that was dope, like hell yeah. And it's kind of, and that's the funny thing, it's like, fan base is one thing, but you know, other artists that I respect are, you know, I'm not saying that either or matters more, but there's something about like people that you look up to that are hitting you up being like, dude, that was really good. You know, that was awesome.
Yeah.
And it's not about good or bad. It's about touching them. You know, it's about moving them and being them. You know, being motivated, because that's the thing is everybody's just so saturated with content. It's like when you like actually make them go, wow, that was cool. You know, that's a big feeling.
Yeah.
And I think that's a higher, you know, that's what makes the challenge higher too. It's like I don't want to just sit there and make a bunch of shit. It's like I'd rather if I did put out a bunch, you know, quantity, it's like I just want to, you know, I want it to be completely under a gradual state of just, you know, it does become easier just because of I'm doing it all the time.
Yeah, the flow.
And I'm motivated to do it, you know, not necessarily doing it to do it. I want it to mean something every time. I don't want to just do it because I should. I want to do it because something motivated me. Because I started getting a little discouraged, like, you know, maybe I'm lazy or whatnot, or, you know, but it was really, it's like, I really need something to motivate me to do it. It's really about having a reason to and having it mean something, you know, like that was kind of a big thing that I realized, that it's like I do my best stuff when I'm fucking pumped about it.
Yeah, of course.
Not because I have to or should do it. It was more of because I was like, ooh, I got to. And now I'm like, ooh, take it. I'm figuring out the best way to do it because I'm pumped to do it, you know, not because I have to.
Yeah.
And so it's like I don't want to. It's like I don't want to put myself in a position because I should or have to. I don't think that's how it should be, you know. And it makes, and as I watch other artists, you know, that's always a question in my head: is what's the emotional involvement into it, you know, like what's, you know, sometimes an artist is a badass because they're technically a badass, and sometimes, you know, I'm not happy with it because I don't feel that there was an emotional involvement in it. I think that, you know, sometimes I can tell that there was like, I feel like I can tell that it was just going through the motions,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just getting something done and putting it out.
Yep.
So it's like I want to really feel it and be like, ooh. And sometimes, and then it's kind of weird to where, you know, the differences between small productions and then big productions, you know, big productions are really cool because it's like so many people went through it, and there's a combo of the complexity and the kind of, you know, emotional involvement in it, even though it was a mass production,
Right.
you know, like what was it, my mom showed me, have you seen there's a Nike commercial that recently came out, and it's I'm gonna send you the link to it,
Cool.
and I'll give you the little prequel that she gave me, or the, you know, the preset is that um, they went through 4,000 hours of footage to make this commercial, and when you see it, it's, dude, it was like emotional to me. It was fucking it was cool. It was really, when you, the message that it's putting out, and you think about how hard that must have been to make, and it really, it's actually, it's not even, it's not even a difficult procedure. It's a super tedious procedure. It just took a long time it probably took just a lot of just hours of matching up stuff.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily technically difficult. It was something that would take a lot of tedious work and then getting it done in a quick manner. But the end result is amazing. It's fucking awesome. I watched it like 3 times last night. I was like, oh my God, that's awesome.
Right on.
And that's kind of what it can be with music. It's like I either want a high level of something emotional, or I want to be blown away by the technical.
Right.
That's kind of like the 2 extremes I want.
For sure.
You know, or a combo of both. You know,
that doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Right on, Seth. Thanks for hanging with me, man.
No, man, this was fun.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
I hope so. Oh, hey, let me know if you hear of a good deal of a 4-string.
Okay.
I want a 4-string. Dooner left his 6-string, but I'm like, I can't be learning on a 6-string.
All right, cool. Yeah, we can get you a 4. I'll be looking around for some good examples of something.
Yeah, just something that's gonna be good, sounds good, and I want to just start doing some scales and doing some lines on it.
Yeah, we'll get you on that for sure.
Cool. All right, buddy.
Hey, have a good night.
You as well, sir.
Thanks.
Love you, man.
Love you too. Bye.